Hello and welcome to this session, friends. My name is Yogesh Kumar. In session today, we are going to talk about working with remote files over SSH using SSHFS. A quick introduction. SSHFS or Secure Shell File System is a file system for Linux and other operating systems with Fuse implementation, capable of operating on files on a remote computer using just a secure shell login on the remote computer. On the local computer where you want SSHFS to be mounted, it make use of Fuse implementation, or you can say Fuse kernel module. On the remote computer from where you are sharing the files, that make use of SFTP subsystem of SSH. If you haven't heard about Fuse, basically Fuse is an interface for user space program to export a file system into the Linux kernel. It got two components. First is Fuse kernel module and second is user space libraries. So that's something, if you want to know more about Fuse, you can just check on Google. I've listed a couple of features. They are SSHFS makes use of port 22 by default. If you want to use your custom port, you can specify during mounting the file system using -p. But by default, it makes use of port 22. What is the benefit? We know using SSH connection, data transmission is basically encrypted. So that's a security thing, right? Second thing, it is based on Fuse. It supports multi-threading. Large read is supported by SSHFS. Basically, that's a Fuse property. It supports caching. Auto reconnect on failure. So these are a couple of features which I've listed, but apart from these features, SSHFS and Fuse got a couple of other features. Okay, so a couple of scenarios, friends, where we can make use of SSHFS. For example, you don't have NFS server in your setup and you want to share a couple of files with remote systems. Or let's assume you got NFS server, but due to some reason, firewall burns are not done for NFS ports. So that may block your work, right? So in that case, for a quick thing, you can just install SSHFS package and share the files. So that's something you can do. Or another scenario, let's say you got one Linux system, but you want to share Linux files on or with a Windows server. So you can make use of Fuse. So that is supported. If you can see on my screen, I mentioned please note, many operating system vendors not supports SSHFS officially. You can install package, but when you raise case with vendor is going to say this is something which is not supported by them. So in case you need any support on SSHFS, you can go on open source communities. You can discuss your issues, and definitely with discussions, issue can be sorted out. So that's something need to be keep in mind while working with SSHFS. In lab, we are going to install SSHFS. Basically, if you are using Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, use yum, and I have listed the commands on my screen. If you are using Ubuntu or Debian, use apt-get. And the config file is etcfuse.conf. And if you want to mount the remote directory using SSHFS, basically you need to create directory on your source system. If that exists by default, that's good. So to mount it on client side, basically you have to run SSHFS user at remote server IP or server name, then the remote path which you want to mount locally and your local mount point. That's it. Let's say if you got identity file, because with the first command which I just discussed, you have to supply the password for that particular user. But if you want to use identity file, so no need to specify or type the password manually. You can use identity file with -o. Identity file is equal to path to your private key. So other command syntax is same. Let's assume you want to make it persistent. So across reboot, automatically that file system gets mounted using SSHFS. Then you can add the entry in etcfs tab. So this is the format. And another thing, friends, I have mentioned Fuse options. So there are a couple of options supported by Fuse, and you can get that information by checking man page of SSHFS, or you can simply run SSHFS -h. It will show you help, and it will list out all the options which are supported by Fuse. So that's something you can do. Okay, let's begin our lab where I can demonstrate how it works. Okay, so in lab 2 different, I got 2 servers. This is my CentOS box 1, and this is my second server, which is CentOS box 2. So let's do one thing. Let me create one directory here, or yeah, better to create new directory. I'm creating a directory Fuse share. I'm just naming it Fuse share. Okay, I am adding couple of files for demo. Let me copy a couple of etc files from etc in this directory so we can assure data is visible on remote system. Okay, so we got some data, and no need to share this particular directory from here. If directory existing, we can mount it on target server, because in case of NFS we have to export the files, we have to share. With Fuse, no need. So this directory is created and it got some data. Let me quickly check the data. If you see, I got a couple of files inside this directory. That's good. I am going on to the target machine, which is basically client, and on this machine we are going to mount SSHFS. So first thing which we have to do, I have to install EPL repository. So for that, simply yum install EPL release, or you can directly use rpm-uvh and the path. So package is getting installed, saying yes here. Okay, EPL release is installed, and now I'm installing Fuse-SSHFS, which is the base package for SSHFS. So this is part of EPL repository. Otherwise, you can directly download the source code. You can compile it locally. That's a lengthy way. I prefer this way by downloading it from EPL repository. If you see, it is getting downloaded from EPL repo. Okay, so saying yes here. Okay, friends, package is installed. So next thing, let's do mount the file system in interactive way. So let me copy the file system name. This was the directory which we just created. Okay, here on my machine, I'm creating one mount point, mkdir, and naming it Fuse mount. Okay, so let's mount file system. SSHFS is the command, and user. If you don't specify user, by default it will pick the user with which you are logged onto system. I'm saying mount it as root, but you can specify your custom user. And remote server. So remote server is CentOS box 1. This is my remote server. And colon file system on the remote server which you want to mount locally. So that was Fuse share, right? And on which mount point you want to mount it locally. So this is directory which we created. I'm saying mount it here, pressing enter here. If you say it is command not found, my mistake, I missed H, sorry for this. Okay, saying yes here, typing password. If you see, it is mounted. If you see, this particular file system is mounted, and let's do ls-l. If you see, all data is there. So that's a way like we mounted the file system in interactive way. And this file system is coming from box 1 and we are on box 2. So that's a one way. If you have to unmount it, you can use fuser mount -u. That's a one way to unmount file system, or you can simply use the basic Unix command to unmount, which is umount and the file system name. That's a second way. Up to you which way you want prefer. Okay, next thing, friends, let's say, because if you remember, I manually typed the password. You don't want to type the password, you want to use SSH keys, because that's something is preferred way, right? Because no one is going to type password again and again. If you got some batch job, so everything need to be automated. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me configure the public private keys. So let's quickly generate the keys. Okay, I have generated my keys. I'm going to put my public key on my target machine. So I can use SSH copy key ID. The root at my target machine is box 1. Okay, key is copied. Sorry, I have to type password, then it will get copied. Okay, key is copied now. So that's good. Now let me show you how you can mount the file system using your key. For that, the command is same which we used earlier to mount the file system. Here I'm going to put options -o. Identity file is equal to, this is the path to my identity file. Okay, so that's a way you can specify your identity file. Pressing enter here. If you see file system mounted, this time it not prompted password because we used SSH keys and file system is mounted. Now let me unmount the file system with umount command. So same thing, earlier I used fuser mount -u. This time I'm using unmount, so both commands will work. If you see, this file system is unmounted. So that was something how you can mount the file system in interactive way. Let's say you want this file system to be persistent across reboots. You got some temporary requirement and you want to do that. How you can do that? You can add entry inside etcfs tab. So let me quickly demonstrate how we can do that. So I'm editing my file. Here I'm putting comment and demo. It's good to put some comment while you're doing that. Okay, so this is the command now. Oh, sorry, this is entry now, SSHFS root at this particular server, which is my machine which is sharing the file system, and mount locally on this mount point. File system type is fuse. I'm saying default mount option plus these are the custom mount options which I've specified. I'm saying this is my identity file and 00 which are part of mount options. So I'm saving this file. Let me quickly show you. File system is not mounted yet. Let me do mount -a. If you see, command finished and file system mounted. It means that's a persistent way file system is mounted. Let me show you etc mount file. This particular entry, this is the fuse.sshfs. That's a file system type. This is the mount point and these are the options which we specified. Now one thing may be in your mind, why I have specified these many options or these custom options. So there is a reason. ID map, I'm saying user, allow other can also use this file system. Reconnect mean automatically it should reconnect. This is the net devices is supported, and identity file is this one. So how you can know which options are available or which options you can use? For that, simply run SSHFS with -h. This is basically help page, but it tells what are the fuse options. If you see fuse options, these are the options. Allow other, which I have used, allow access to other users. Allow root mean allow access to root. So these are the options, friends, which you can use and available in this particular version. So these are the options with SSHFS. Those were fuse options. So depending upon your requirement, you can use custom options. Another thing which I want to tell you before ending this session, the configuration file for fuse file system, that's fuse.com. So you can put your custom entries here. By default, everything is commented and it is using default. If you want to use your custom entries, you can update here, like mount max mean on how many max fuse file systems can be mounted. So it's 1000 by default. So you can custom these limits or you can add your own custom configuration. So that was something about SSHFS. If you have any query, any suggestion, or anything you want to ask me, you can leave a comment on my YouTube channel and I will try to respond as soon as possible. Thank you for watching this video. Thanks again, friends. Bye-bye.